So back in the day, if you picked your photos up from Boots and they looked like this, you would be screaming and shouting and chucking your camera in the bin, because what it meant was that there was light leaking into the back of your camera and blowing out or overexposing your film. But these days it is fashionable, right? And we can add these effects, these light leaks effects, in programs like Lightroom or Photoshop. And to make things even easier for you, I have got 30 light leak presets, Lightroom presets, that I am going to give to you for free. There's a link in the description of this video. All you need to do is click on it, fill out the form, and you get 30 free light leak presets that you can use in Lightroom. Right, let's go into Lightroom and create light leaks. Now, like I said, we're using Lightroom, but you can use any program really. Let's go and have a look at how we're going to do it. Right, let me just show you how the presets work first of all on this lovely flowery shot that I got off of unsplash.com. Over here, there is your light leaks presets, and like I said, you've got 30 of them that you can play around with, and it really is as simple as this. You click the preset and it gives you that light leak effect. So we've got some cool vintage ones here like that. We've got some cyan ones here. We've got some magenta ones that you can use, and some warm vintage, I've called them. And then we can go down here and I've got some yellow ones that you can use as well. Now the reason that the light leaks are them colors, cyan, magenta and yellow, is because back in the day you had negatives, and the negatives worked in CYMK, cyan, magenta and yellow, okay? And that's why when you got light leaks into your film, they would generally be a cyan cast or a magenta cast or like a warm orangey yellow type cast. So that's why I've made these presets like that. So you can have warm light leaks, you can have cool light leaks, and so on. And you can even mix them up like this. And for this task, we are going to use one of my images, this one here. Let's use this one here. And like I say, all you do is you hover over any of these presets and you can see that they're giving you lovely light leak effects. The first one that we're going to apply, I think, is a magenta one. So I quite like that one there. So let's apply that, and you apply it quite simply by clicking on the preset. And that's it, it's now applied. The preset is now on top of my image, and once it's applied, you can then apply another preset on the top of that, another one on the top of that, and so on and so forth, if you so wish. Because I've put a magenta one on, which is quite cool, let's now overlay that one with a warm one. So we'll go over to these here and we'll see which one looks quite cool. I think that maybe, yeah, warm vintage 2, let's put that one over the top. And there you go. We have just taken an image and we've very easily given it that light leak effect, just like that there. Okay, I'm going to hit the reset button down the bottom to bring it back to the original. So that is a really easy way to do it, using the presets that you've got for free in the description of this video. But what about if you want to take a bit more control and you want to create your own light leaks effects? Really easy to do. Let's go into Lightroom now and show you. And it's achieved by adding masks, primarily. Masks over the top, we brighten them up, we change the colors, and we create light leaks. You know, like I said to you before, we are trying to recreate the effect of the light leaking into the back of the old film cameras, all right? So we're going to come over and we're going to open up our masking panel here like this. And then we just try and recreate the light leak effect. So let's try it with a radial gradient first. We're going to click on the radial gradient. And the beauty of doing this type of effect is that there isn't one way of doing it. You know, you can do it any way you want. So light leaking normally came from the edges of the film, right? So that would be from the top or the bottom of the film. So let's first of all put a nice big radial gradient down the bottom here like this. I'm going to play about with a feather a little bit because I probably don't want it to be that soft. So let's put that back to sort of roughly in the middle there. And then we need to brighten that mask to create, you know, the light leak effect. So let's come down to our exposure slider and bring it up a little bit like that. And let's bring up the highlights and the shadows just like that, maybe a little bit more. Let's overdo it a little bit for this video. I'm just going to overdo it a little bit for you. Okay, so let's do that. So that's nice and bright. And now we've got an effect. We can play with the feather again, actually. So we can have it feathered more, so it's more softer. Or we can go like that, so it's a little bit harsher. So actually probably about there is a bit better. We can come over to our radial gradient and we can move it around, but I still think about there is quite cool, so we'll leave it there like that. And then we need to change the color of that mask. You know, like I said to you before, we need to think about the negatives, that the old negatives, they worked in cyan, yellow and magenta, and obviously lights and darks. So we need to change this mask to mimic the old film effects. But before I show you how to do that, let me take this opportunity to tell you about the courses that we run over at theschoolofphotography.com. If you want to learn Lightroom properly, we have a whole in-depth course over on the School of Photography, 5-star rated, taken by tens of thousands of people all over the world. So if you're looking to learn Lightroom, to learn Photoshop, to learn photography, we've got wildlife photography, macro photography, landscape photography, studio lighting, and loads of photography genres we've got over at the School of Photography, and we can teach you properly over there. So if you want to learn photography, Lightroom, Photoshop, and loads of other things, come over and see us at theschoolofphotography.com. Right, let's go back into Lightroom and let's start changing the colors of these light leaks. So we've already got our radial gradient there and it's already creating that light leak. It's already bright. Now what we need to do is change the color of it, and you need to think about what color you're going to go for in your light leaks. You know, you can mix them up, and like I just showed you can mix the cool ones up with the warm ones, etc. But you should really start with some kind of theme, if you like, or some kind of color theme. And in this case, I think we're going to go for cool magenta bluey type light leaks. So I'm going to come over first of all to the color temperature of this mask, and I'm going to start mucking about with it. So actually let's go like that into the yellows, and let's move the magentas across like that, and that is giving me a nice cool look. There we go, like that. And then the next thing is to come down to the hue slider here and quite simply grab it and move it around to where you think it's gonna suit. Now you don't want to go nuts with this because it just looks weird. If I start going all like that down to here, it just doesn't look right. It's literally fine movements either side, okay? So I think something about there. And then if you want to, you can come down to the saturation slider and see if that's going to make any difference. And I don't think it's going to make much of a difference at all, actually. So I'm going to double click on the word saturation to bring it back to normal. I think it's a little bit too red, so I'm going to move that slider back a bit, the hue slider back a bit. I'm going to come up to the color temperature and just see if I can move that around a bit. Does it make much of a difference? And that's about that. Let's go over to mask 1 here and hide that effect and bring it back. And there you go, that's quite a cool light leak, I think. So that's the first light leak on this particular image. Let's add some more. And to add some more, we're going to create a new mask. So let's grab a new mask by clicking that plus symbol there. And this time, let's grab a linear gradient and come in from this side like that. There we go, just like that will do. Bring it in a little bit further, and let's make it like, so it's not a long gradient, if you like, it's quite a short gradient, okay? And again, this is generally what's going to happen when you have a light leak. It's going to come from the top or the bottom of the film, and I think something like that for now. Let's come over to the settings of the mask, and then let's start playing about with this. There we go, look at that nice bright one. Let's bring up the shadows and the highlights like that, and actually just lift that exposure a little bit more. Again, we're going to come to the color balance, start mucking about with this, see if I can put some color into it like that. Come down to the hue slider and see what happens if I muck about with this. And I'm thinking about there. It's already looking quite good in my opinion, but you can actually add a color overlay here as well. So let's click on that and just see what happens if I start to go down into the cyans here like that, okay? It's doing all right, I suppose, but actually over here in these colors, in the magentas, that's where it's looking better. I think it's suiting the image a bit more. So I'm gonna leave it about there. And now let's put another light leak in. Now another common light leak was a line going right the way through your negative, okay? That normally happens when the back was opened quickly or whatever. You get like a line of light coming right through your negative. So let's try and add one of them light leaks. To do that again, let's just click on the color box here. And then we're gonna come up to create a new mask. This time we're going to go to linear gradient again. Actually, we're going to go to linear gradient, and then I'm going to put a gradient across the image like this. And at the minute you're probably thinking that's not a line, you know, that's a big long gradient. But what we can actually do is we can intersect this gradient with another gradient going the other way, and where they both overlap is where the masking effect is going to take place. Let me show you how to do that. So we're going to come over to the linear gradient mask here. I'm going to click on these three dots. I'm going to go to intersect with, and I'm going to select a linear gradient. And this time I'm going to come this way, okay? And now what you can see is where they overlap is where the effect is going to take place, all right? So it's going to be something like that, I think. I can also click on the other gradient and move that around. Let's do something like that for now. Now the red overlay there is actually showing you where the effect is going to take place. So you can see that I did a linear gradient one way, I did a linear gradient the other way, and where they both overlapped, that's where you see the red overlay here, and that is where the effect that I'm going to apply now is going to take place, okay? So let's come down to the exposure slider and bring that up like that. Let's come down to the highlights, maybe lift the highlights, lift the shadows a little bit like that. And then I'm gonna come over to the image because I don't actually want it straight across the face here. So I'm gonna basically click on these. These are called pins. So I'm gonna click on that pin and bring it over that way. I'm going to click on this pin here and I'm going to bring it over that way, and there you go. That's a bit better actually. Let's bring that over a little bit more. And now let's come over to the color balance. Let's change the color of this. So let's grab the temperature and do the same thing as I did before. Put some yellow in it, put some magenta in it there like that. Let's go down to the hue slider and see if that helps a little bit more. Kind of does help a bit, I think. Maybe about there. Let's see if a color overlay will work like it did on the other ones. Yeah, it does. It looks really cool actually. And when I say cool, I mean cool in color. All right. So let's come down to possibly about there. Okay, click that color box to get rid of that panel. Let's hide that mask and bring it back. Hide it and bring it back. And that don't look too bad at all actually. So what we've got here is a light leak going right the way through the image. One coming up from the bottom, one coming in from the top left there. So now let's hide all of their masks and see what it's doing, okay? Switch the masks off. That's the normal image, and that's with the light leaks, okay? Normal image, light leaks. Now you could leave it there if you wanted to, but I think that we can vintage this up a little bit more. Let's add a bit of grain into this and let's see what else we can do. So firstly, let's hide all of the masks by clicking the mask icon at the top here. And let's come down to this panel here called Effects. So I'm going to click down on Effects, and then here you've got something called Grain. Okay, now grain mimics the graininess of these old negatives, yeah, the old film. If you're as old as me, you remember all of this, okay? You used to get lovely grainy film, and yeah, it looked quite cool. So let's see if we can mimic that in Lightroom. We're going to grab the amount slider, and I'm basically going to slide it across to around about halfway, I'm going to zoom into the image by clicking this drop down here and going to 100% here. There we go. Let's move this a bit more central. Now we can see that grainy effect. All right, so let's just play with the amount again a bit more. For the sake of this video, we might as well overdo it a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go up to about there. Here you can change the size of that grain if you want to. I mean, that's definitely looking like one of them films you used to pick up from Boots and when your camera had gone wrong. Okay, let's come down a little bit actually on there, and then you've got your roughness of the grain as well. So let's go up like that. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to click on the image to fit to screen. Let's flick off of these effects and see the difference. And there you go. So that's with the grain and that's without the grain. Again, actually, I'm going to zoom in again so you can see it. That's without the grain and that's with the grain. Okay, without and with. Click back on the image to full screen it. Let's have a look at the before and after. And there you go. Okay, that's the normal picture. And that's the image with these light leak effects and a bit of grain, which would mimic the old film that you used to get when your camera went wrong. Now clearly you can also change that to whatever you want. You can add even more light leaks. You can do warm versions, cool versions, mix up a warm light leak with a cool one, and you know, that's the fun of it, just to experiment. Or you could use the 30 free light leak presets that I have made for you in the description of this video, and you can apply them and then adjust them to suit if you want an easy ride. Now, if you've liked this video, you need to help us out, okay? This is the way it works. We help you, you help us. We really, really appreciate it, right? Like the video, share it with your friends. Tell us what you think. Do you like this effect? Tell us what you think in the comments. Of course, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell, otherwise you will not know when our next video is going to be released. And don't forget that if you want to learn photography properly, come over and see us at theschoolofphotography.com. I'll see you in the next video.